Alright, a lot has happened in the space of 24 hours, and there therefore is a lot to talk about, and a lot of thoughts that I've had on my mind that I've put to pad. But with that being said, I'm not sure if I'm going to say everything that's on my mind as I usually would, because I prefer to keep this episode short, seeing as it's around 12:30 at the time of me making this voiceover, so I want to keep it brief. And when I say brief, I mean for my style of video. My style of videos could be 1.5 hours, as it has been in the past with my day 87 log, or it could be slightly less than that, with it being slightly over an hour like it was in yesterday's log. But I'm going to keep it, at this point in time, as far as I'm aware anyway, to around half an hour at a push, because again, it's fairly late. It's fairly later than usual, and I want to still have time set aside to be able to do the other things in my life that I want to do, such as doing fun things that pay me, or at least working up towards them at this point in time. Okay, so let's talk about improving my mental strength, and I'll refer to this in context of what happened yesterday. So I'll talk about the gym session, and then I'll talk about me potentially seeing Joseph, quote unquote Joseph. Alright, so yesterday I went into the gym with the intentions of pushing past my mental limits. Yes. I went into the gym with the intentions of pushing past my mental limits. And with that in mind, I trained differently than I usually would, and that I've ever done recently anyway. I think the only time that I've trained in a similar way to when I trained before was when I was having personal training sessions with quote unquote Isaac. Just for future reference, I'm only using anonymous names unless I actually say otherwise. So anyway, the only time I remember having similar sessions to the session that I had yesterday was back when I was having personal training sessions and paying for personal training sessions with Isaac. Those sessions, they made me sweat to the limit and they pushed me to the limit. However, although those sessions were similar, they weren't the same, especially when it came to the mental aspect of things. Because on one hand, back then when I was having personal training sessions with Isaac, he was the one that was pushing me. Whereas compared to yesterday, and also in today's session, as you're seeing, it was me that had to push through mentally. And I actually prefer it being me having to push through mentally than someone else, because that means not only am I improving my physical strength, but I'm also improving my mental strength. And on that note, let's talk about what I did. So, when I went into the gym yesterday, I trained biceps, triceps, and forearms. I did a lot more reps on my biceps and my triceps than I did my forearms. However, I did do forearms nonetheless. My body's an empire and I can't miss out any part of it. Even if that means I do a few reps to start off with, that's fine. That's more than okay. But the fact that I'm tending to it is an amazing start and something that I can build off. Again, like I've said in previous logs, in the words of Daniel Louisi from Asheville, 20% of something is better than 100% of nothing. I may be living by that principle without even realizing it, but I do agree with him. Even though that's not an idea that I came up with, I do agree with it. And I think without even realizing it, that's a principle that I actually live by. Anyway, I was training biceps, triceps, and forearms. So let's get into what I did with biceps first. So the only exercise I really did was hammer curls on the cable machine. But I also did barbell bicep curls. That was a close grip though. When it comes to the barbell, you have the rough surface, and then there's the center, which is smooth. I put my hands right at the smooth part in the center, just before it gets rough. That's where I place my hands on the barbell. Keep in mind that this is a 15 kilogram barbell. It's not a 20 kilogram one. And I did that for a few reps. But before doing the barbell bicep curls, I did the cable hammer curls. That was the exercise I predominantly did for triceps. I also did a few reps with the dumbbell bicep curls as well, now that I think about it. But that's something that I didn't actually mention on the pad. But anyway, I did 10 reps at 7.5 kg as a warm-up set. And then I did 25 reps for 10 kilograms. For 10 kilograms, 12.5 kilograms, and 15 kilograms. When I was at around the 15 kilogram mark, I felt my veins pop more than they ever have done. They felt so big on the insides of my wrist, and also the outside as well. So on both sides of the hand, where the palm is and outside of the palm, not the palm is. I don't actually know what that part of the hand's called. Where your fingernails and knuckles are, that side of the hand. On both sides, particularly the side which my palm faces, I could feel my veins pop so much. I could remember it. They were feeling so big. Oh, and it could just be because of me really pushing past my physical limits and getting the blood pumping. All right. Well, of course, I need more blood circulating through my system as I train harder. So I don't actually really know, how does that work? I say obviously, but I don't know the complete sides of it. If I were to try and explain it, it'd just be complete and utter bro science. That's what that would be. But we're all learning. Every single day we're getting it together, especially those on the self-improvement path, and also those on the self-improvement path. We're all learning and we're all getting it together, slowly but surely. Every single day, bit by bit and piece by piece, the puzzle gets unraveled, and we're on our way every single day, one day at a time, are on our way to living a life that's ideal. Partly of which requires learning. When it came, in terms of the 15 kilogram cable hammer curls, I found them, from memory, quite tough to do. So there were times which I paused and then I carried on going. I forgot to mention I also did 6 reps on with 17.5 kilograms, but they were all cheated. I was using my body to lift the weight as well as my bicep, with the mindset of, let's get these reps in so that my muscles can grow, instead of sticking to mental limits that I once set myself. So that's what I did. However, I do have a healthier alternative than what I've just explained now. And that's to reduce the weight or stay at the same weight that you were at the last set, which basically is reducing the weight anyway. So yeah, reduce the weight and then do more reps with controlled form rather than with cheated form. Okay. So, so from the 7.5 kilogram warm-up set to the 12.5 kilogram reps, I did all of them with proper form, which goes for both the bicep exercise and the cable tricep push downs that I call them, that I did, and which I'll explain later. I don't actually know if that's what they're called, but when I say tricep push downs, I just mean extending your arms, which makes you work your triceps. And I did that on the cable machine with rope, with the ropes attachment that they have. Okay, so for both bicep cable hammer curls and tricep push downs, I'm calling them, for 15 kg, I did some with proper form and I cheated some reps so my muscles could get used to lifting the weight. That was the mindset that I had back then when I was lifting yesterday. But I'd recommend doing them with proper form at a lighter weight, and then from there, as you carry on doing that consistently, you will then be able to do the heavier weight with proper form, and it will come slowly but surely. You'll get there slowly but surely. You'll get there, and I'll get there. We'll all get there as a self-improvement community. Okay, so when in terms of the cable tricep push downs, I did the same thing. 10 reps, 7.5 kilograms as a warm up. 25 reps, 10 kg. 25 reps, 12.5 kg. 25 reps, 15 kg. And 6 reps at the 17.5 kg, just so that I could replicate the amount of reps that I did with the bicep hammer curls, so that it was equal, and that I trained both my biceps and my triceps equally, reps wise anyway. When I was training at 17.5 kg for my triceps, I felt my forearms, or actually no, in fact my wrist, I felt my wrist having to really push down the weight, so I'm not going to do that weight for now, because I can clearly tell that could mean that I put myself in a position where I injure myself if I carry on using that weight at this point in time, especially if I do all of those exercises beforehand. So I'm going to not do that for a while and stick with 15 kg, because I know that I can do that with proper form. Okay, when I was doing the tricep pushdowns, or at 15 kg, I made a note here that I actually, in fact, eventually felt my rear delts and my core working every time I pushed the weight down when I was pushing past my mental limits. And I've never felt them whilst doing this exercise before. So that means, in my mind, that I'm making progress, because I'm putting in so many reps and so much effort that I'm actually training. I'm obviously feeling myself train other parts of the body other than just triceps in this case. And I don't think I was injuring myself either, because I was doing that with proper form. All of the reps were with proper form. I did full lock every single rep, and I did that so I could really feel my triceps working. Notice how I said so instead of because. I know that I use that word a lot, and I am reading, so yeah, that will come together as well. Even though I'm articulating myself much more clearly than I ever have done before, I know that I can still improve. So that's what I'm doing. Day by day, it's coming together, day by day, piece by piece. Just like how the saying in the Think and Grow Rich book says, every day in every way, I'm getting better and better. And I'm putting in the effort to be able to reaffirm that belief. So when I say that, both my conscious and subconscious mind know I'm not chatting shit. Anyway, let's move on. So that reviews the main exercises I did. Even with the dumbbell hammer curls, I did that as well. I've spoken about that. And also the barbell bicep curls, I've also spoken about that. I didn't do anything extra with working triceps. I, in fact, want to actually learn how to work every single tricep head, because if I'm not mistaken, there are 3 tricep heads that you have. There's a side one, then the front one, I think. But I'm not sure about my knowledge of the body's anatomy. So that's something that I'm learning about, because that does apply to me, and I'm really interested in learning about how to work every single muscle. So I'll get to it and I'll learn. And even speaking about that means I'm on my way to learning about these things deeply. Speaking of, there's actually something that I've thought of doing that I read from the Deep Workbook, which is one of the main messages he has at the last page in the Embrace Boredom chapter. And it's to do card memorization and also productive meditation, or very generally speaking, something that requires very deep focus. And I'm thinking of buying a pack of cards so that I can practice card memorization. I want to practice card memorization in particular, because that's the only physical sort of memorization that I could think of right now. To be fair, I didn't actually think of it. It's something that I read. But anyway, that's not a bad thing per se. I think it may help, and I would like the physical aspect to it, instead of just only using my brain. I think in order to enhance my focus and my ability to focus, I will buy a pack of cards, practice card memorization, and also practice the art of productive meditation, in which I put my thoughts together as to how I'm going to go about the day. That's what I think productive meditation is anyway. However, for you guys out there, that may be something different. But personally, that's what it is for me. And I know that from doing it in the past, even though I did and was able to actually make a plan as to how I'm going to do what I set myself, I found that my mind was distracted. I did distract my mind with other thoughts automatically anyway. So I think both would help. And I'm going to go on the internet and find out where I could go, which sort of store I could go to buy a pack of cards. Alright, so back to training session. So as I said, I trained forearms, but not as much as I trained biceps or triceps. I made a note that I trained at least 5 reps on the 15 kilogram barbell, doing a forearm curl, and I did at least 5 reps on the 2.5 kilogram roll up. I felt a lot of tension as I went slow. However, I did sometimes go faster during the last few reps anyway. But I didn't actually make much of a note about what happened during forearms, because there wasn't much to it. But there is something else that I didn't make a note of that I'd like to talk about, which is the difference in muscle tension that I felt during the roll-ups and the barbell forearm curl. They certainly do feel different. It's like the muscles are in a way clicking somehow when I do barbell forearm curls. That's what it feels like. But when I do roll-ups, I only feel muscle tension, which I prefer. I don't want to do such a heavy weight with the forearm curl on a barbell that I actually go and hurt myself when I could have just done a heavier weight on the roll-up. I only feel muscle tension on the roll-up, and it doesn't feel like my wrists are got a click or anything, or on the verge of being injured somehow, some way. So with that in mind, I prefer to do the roll-ups and I do the forearm curl. Although I may carry on doing the forearm curl anyway. Although I've spoken about this session in its entirety, there is one more thing that I'd like to add that I want to implement into my workouts, especially with these in the future, and that is to follow one of the tips I got from a personal trainer. Let's call him Harry. This is a tip that I got from him in the past, and that's to keep your back straight when doing the tricep pushdowns. And I'm going to also implement that tip into do it when I do the cable hammer curls as well. I think I need to do that because that will mean that I actually work my triceps only when doing the tricep pushdowns instead of my triceps and my elbows and potentially my wrists as well. But I think when it comes to wrists though, that's just if you sense yourself using the wrist, that's just because the weight is way too heavy for you. But yeah, when you do the reps, this is coming from a personal trainer in training, but a personal trainer nonetheless. Yeah, you need to keep your back straight when doing these reps. When I was doing yesterday's workout, I didn't, honestly. So I know from experience that tip works only my triceps, which is what I want and which is ideal for me. So I'm going to implement that into my training from now on. All right, now let's talk about one of the main things that I wanted to address in this video, and that's about what happened after being in the gym. And that is the fact that I genuinely think I saw, quote unquote, Joseph when I was walking after doing the gym session. But before I address that, there's actually something else that I wanted to address that happened when I was on my way to walking onto the gym that I made myself experience. And that was, I thought when I was walking to the gym, I thought someone was looking at me. And I think that I thought that because that's been an old mental pathway that I formed after Joseph approaching me with his 3 boys. That was a mental pathway that I built after that happening, and I think subconsciously, because I didn't question it before, or I either didn't question it before or didn't question it in a way that allowed me to actually overcome it. I thought, oh, is that guy on the street? When I was walking to the gym, oh, is that guy on the street looking at me? But the guy was just sitting down on his phone. Sitting down, looking down on his phone. And I thought that I may have thought that thought as I was rushing, and that could have subconsciously sent a message to my head that I'm rushing because I'm afraid I'm afraid that I'll get approached in the same way that pardon me, need to clear my throat there, that I'll get approached in the same way that Joseph approached me with his 3 boys. Maybe that's where it came from. Maybe that's where that thought pathway came from. But in reality, it was just a guy sitting down looking at his phone. That's all it was. But what I did in response is probably something that I've done, something that I've never done before, which was I slowed down and I made it clear to myself that I'm not rushing because I'm avoiding anyone or anything. And that really does mean anyone or anything, including Joseph. It doesn't matter who it is, I wrote. But that was what I meant. I'm not avoiding anyone or anything, so I slowed myself down and I stopped thinking those thoughts. I was able to snap myself out of that fearful way of thinking quickly after having that thought, because I slowed down and I made it very clear to myself that I'm not avoiding him or anyone else on the street. Even though last year that was a mental pathway that I built after him approaching me, after me calling him fat months prior. Okay. I wrote more notes than this, which I may have just said before, but I'm going to say it anyway. I noticed myself starting to think if the guy on the street was looking at me for some reason as I was rushing to the gym to get there as quick as possible with no feelings of fear attached. And then I've just said this now. I slowed down and I made it clear to myself I'm not rushing because I'm not avoiding anyone or anything, and that really means anyone or anything. It doesn't matter who it is. And now we have skipped past in time because I'm now going to talk about what happened after the gym session. What I just spoke about happened beforehand. And because of what happened after the gym session, I really believe that I've become mentally stronger through working through those mental blocks and fearful ways of thinking that I once built last year due to that event, and also and all of the dreams that my family, friends, and family members had of me, quote unquote, violently passing away. My sister said, even though I didn't have those dreams, I also did have a dream of almost getting robbed twice in the same dream. All of that combined with the fact that he approached me with his 3 boys in a hostile way, because I knew, deep down, I knew that if I said anything that he really disliked and that they really disliked, they could have jumped me, because that was at least 1v4 situation. So there were the dreams, there was the event that I got approached on the 26th of July last year, and then there was also the fact that Joseph, I heard from someone, let's call him Alex. I heard from Alex that his brother had stabbed someone, or maybe stabbed multiple people in prison. And because of all of this happening, I allowed myself to feel fear. Before the July event, the dreams came in June, and I said, from either the 10th or the 11th of June last year, I'm not going to go to the skate park. There wasn't only that, but I heard someone say a racist comment as well, so that was just only an icing on the cake as to why I'd never go there again. I think it was Joseph that said it. I remember mentioning this in a previous log. I was looking the completely opposite direction. I was looking left, but where I heard it from came from the right, where all the skate park ramps were and that. And I heard someone call him the N-word, and I was the only black one that was there. So I think that genuinely was aimed at me, although no one actually said that to my face. And I could understand why. They know deep down that if I truthfully wanted to, because I'm much bigger than them, which they're probably thinking in their mind, I could hurt them if they actually went and said that to me. There is that aspect to take into account. Although I certainly wouldn't want to hurt anyone. I wouldn't want to put my hands on anyone. That's for sure. Especially a little kid who are around age like 15 or even younger. I wouldn't want to put my hands on anyone. The age range at that skate park back then, as far as I'm aware anyway, was 7 to 29. It wasn't just teens. There were fully grown adults there as well. So the age range was actually rather mixed. That said though, there were fewer adults than there were teens. But then again, that's to be expected. As you get older, your priorities change. But there are only some people who are sensible enough to actually carry on doing what they truly love, which for some people is skateboarding. Will I carry on skating? I'm never going to go back there again. That is for sure. But will I carry on skating though? Maybe. There's a place in particular that I'm thinking of that I may go and skate to start off with. Maybe. 2 places in particular I'm thinking of now. But for the sake of privacy, I'm not going to say where. Okay, so as I was saying before I rather wildly digressed, let's talk about why I think I became mentally stronger today. So there was Joseph, I think, and also a girl there that I saw on the street. Let's call her Kira. So I saw Kira and Joseph, or someone who I thought genuinely was Joseph, seeing as I saw Kira there as well, which in my mind further corroborated the fact that it genuinely could have been Joseph. I walked past them on the street by a post office in the playground. After this happened, a few seconds, actually no, when it did happen, I looked at this guy right in the eyes, and he looked down. He very slightly tilted his head down. And a few seconds later, I could hear him talk. it genuinely could have been him, or maybe not. But if it was, the guy certainly lost quite some weight. He certainly isn't as chubby anymore. His face still, if it is him, his face is still slightly chubby, but it certainly isn't as chubby as it once was. But then again, even if he is eating the same way that caused him to have a overweight physique, it makes sense as to why he's slimmed down, because when you're a teenager, you're growing, man. Especially around 15, you're still growing. So it makes sense to as to if that was him, as to why his physique's become more slim. Again, if that is him. It sounded like he was complaining a few seconds after I walked past him. But I knew I think it was maybe from then onwards, or maybe immediately after coming. No, it was from after all of the things that I'm going to talk about now, including me potentially seeing Joseph and I certainly saw Kira. It certainly was Kira, and I think I saw Joseph as well. But if it is him, he certainly looks different. So, as I was saying, he sounded like he was complaining about something a few seconds later. I think it was about me, because I think I heard him speak about how someone was looking at him or something. I think it was, but that may be my perception of reality actually warping what happened and giving a very biased perspective. However, what I experienced was shaky legs. I felt my legs felt slightly shaken. My legs felt slightly shaken. My legs felt slightly shaky after I saw those two, after I saw Kira and potentially Joseph. However, I felt okay knowing that I no longer walk the streets in fear. That's what I wrote. If it is him, he certainly lost quite some weight. Again, that's what I wrote. When I was thinking about this, I think last night maybe, processing what happened, I think the reason why I think I felt shaky legs was not because of him, but because of the fact that I was actually facing a fear that I made up in my head. I was facing that head on, because there was no way I was going to make myself turn back when I saw him and potentially him and Kira, which actually something similar happened when I saw a group of teenage boys later on, which I'll talk about. But again, I felt my legs slightly shaking. However, I think the reason why that was the case is because of all of those times, all of the amalgamation of times I felt fear when walking on the street, thinking it could be him. For example, when I was walking across the street one time and one kid pointed in my direction, potentially at the houses behind me, and he was with an adult, and his body shape looked similar from afar to Joseph's, and I was picturing in my head, these people pointing at me. That's what I said, and my fear sensors just went on complete overdrive when this happened. Complete overdrive. Let me tell you something, yeah? They went in overdrive so much that I was in town sitting on a bench, and I felt the need to call my parents just in case it actually was Joseph and his brother that apparently came from prison, that apparently was in prison before, that stabbed someone. I felt so much fear from someone pointing in my direction from this event that I felt the need to call my parents about it. My mum was saying not to live my life in fear. I don't remember what my dad said. But now, I'd certainly say that I'm a much stronger person after it. But it doesn't stop there. let's call him Taylor. I never actually had problems with Taylor at all. I actually like the kid. He, again, is around 15 or so. So I saw Taylor, and he was with one girl, and at least one girl anyway. And we just looked at each other for a couple of seconds and then kept it moving. We didn't even say hi to each other. And I think that's because I haven't spoken to him in a long time, and I'm not going back to the skate park ever. So that friendship has slowly died down, even though I never had any problems with him, ever. I kept on hearing him repeat the word sick over and over and over again. I don't know why, but it could just be teen stuff. To think I'm no longer a teen anymore. 20 years old, I'm no longer a teen. Nope. Back when I was 15, I was in an astronomy club after school, trying to impress other people with the clothes that I had, instead of actually doing something like Harry did and going to an after school fighting club of some sort. When I was very young, very, very young, I was in, I want to say what it is, but I don't want to say the name of it. It was just before I carry on, I don't want to say the name of it for privacy reasons, because that may mean, if I do say its actual name, then that may mean you may be able to track the location of it, which I don't want. I'm absolutely not interested in stalkers. It's a place that you go to after school, that primary and middle school people could go to after school, because their parents couldn't pick them up after. So that's where I was going. Wait, hold up a sec. I'm going to have to go back in the voiceover to remind myself as to why I'm talking about this. Hold on. Okay, I remember now. I was talking about Harry. So Harry, he said that he started Taekwondo. It was either Taekwondo and or boxing at 7 years old. And I thought, very recently, I remember thinking that I would have liked to have done something similar. If I could go and relive my childhood with the mindset I have now, then I would have gone and done something. I would have done something like that at that age. But I think if I really wanted to do that at that age, I don't think that would have been able to happen anyway, because my parents weren't able to pick me up immediately after school for whatever reason. Reasons I don't remember. And reasons, honestly, if I even did, I probably wouldn't say, because they'd probably be too private. So now that I think about it, there most likely wasn't any way that I would have been able to do something like a boxing or a Taekwondo club after school, if those facilities, on the premise that those facilities weren't there at school after school. There's no way I probably would have been able to do that, because my parents wouldn't have been able to pick me up immediately after school for me to be able to attend a club on time. Now that I think about it, there actually was a martial arts sort of club or community that was being run, from my memory. It was someone's dad that I used to go to school with, even high school with, actually. But I wasn't close friends with this person at all. I wouldn't actually say I was friends with this person at all. We were no more than acquaintances. So on that note, I think I only knew of this maybe during year 4, maybe. At the earliest, I probably knew about this martial arts community at year 4. Maybe. I have a snapshot in my mind. Whether it's actually something that happened, I don't know. But maybe I could have done that. But again, the odds of me being able to do that at that age were probably very slim, because my parents were able to pick me up immediately after school for whatever reason. I don't actually remember. But again, even if I did, I probably wouldn't tell you, because they'd probably be too private, in my opinion. Alright, now it's time to move back to what happened yesterday. I said I was going to keep it at around half an hour at a push, but I haven't finished talking about this situation, and because of that, I'm just going to keep on pushing through at least this. So, after seeing Taylor and at least one girl talking to each other, we moved on, and in the same location, I saw two boys on bikes 2 seconds later, again thinking that it could have been Joseph because of that fearful mental pathway. But as the two things prior, which I've explained, happened, I was repeating in my head, yeah, I've become mentally stronger today. And because those two boys were in the way, though were in the path that I originally intended to go, I didn't back out of fear. So I went there, even though I impulsively didn't want to, out of subconscious fear, thinking it could have been Joseph. But even though that was the case, I still went. This fear, man, this fear sounds like a complete bitch. A complete and utter coward fucking bitch. Pussy, that's it. Sounds like a complete pussy. That's what that fear sounds like. How many times have I said, it could have been Joseph? Like, calm the fuck down, he's not a murderer. You sound like a complete fucking pussy. A complete and utter pussy. Everything, like, labia, vagina, clit, all of that. That's what that fear sounds like. It sounds like the entire thing, not even just the whole, the entire part. That's what it sounds like. It just sounds like one big, massive piece of vaginal tissue. Even though it's not just one thing, I'm well aware of that. There are many parts of the vagina, yes, I know. But thinking, oh my gosh, could it be Joseph? Could it be Joseph? Sound like a fucking pussy, man up. That's what I'm thinking at this point in time. Or that's what I'm saying at this point in time. But there's no way I would have been able to think this sort of way if I didn't actually work through these things. This is the sort of way that I've been thinking, that I was thinking after that event in which he approached me with 3 boys for maybe less than half a year. That guy last year, that so-called me, he was a fucking pussy-o. He was a pussy-o. He was a fucking pussy. But, oh man. Yeah, in my head now, I have said it, but in my head now I'm just thinking, man up. Man up. That's what I'm thinking. Thinking, could it be him? Come on, he's not a gunman. Like, he's not a gunman. If I did see him, he looked down. I absolutely am not superior to him or anything like that, no. But I mean, come on, he hasn't put a gun to my head or a knife or anything like that, so big fucking deal. He's just a kid. Man up. But again, that actually reminds me of what my mum told me. Yeah, he literally is just a kid. But I understand where the fear came from, even though I'm telling myself to man up. I understand where it came from. Not from him, but from the fact that apparently Alex said that his brother came from prison, and in combination with all the dreams that I had, I thought that maybe he actually would have done something like that, and I therefore would have been murdered in some way. So I understand where the fear came from. But seriously, that was no more than a perceived danger at that point in time. He said, I'll get my brother on you to everyone. He's a pussy-o that hides behind his brother. He's a prick. I say that, but it's... mate. Maybe I'm not actually thinking that about him. Because when I've thought about this before, he's just a kid with insecurities. His weight back then. But I don't think... Maybe, even though I just called him a prick, I've called him a punk as well before. I don't think... Maybe I'm projecting. Maybe I was thinking back then, no, when I was having these thoughts before, that I actually was saying that without even knowing it about myself. Maybe I was saying that to myself, that is what I am. Maybe because I felt fear, when I was calling him a prick or a punk, I was actually calling myself a prick and a punk. Maybe that's what that was, and projecting that onto him, maybe that's what I was doing. But now that I've spoken about it, I believe I have manned up. He's just a kid, and forget him. Like that part of my life it's been and done. And I've actually learned something extremely valuable from it. To not live, instead of living my life in fear, work through any fears, any worries that you've put in your head, or anything that you want to work on, such as me being on my way to achieving a 3-minute plank. Hey, manifestation. With all of these things, processing them is the way. Otherwise, I know from my personal experience, if I didn't do this, I wouldn't be at the point I'm at today. I wouldn't be able to explain myself so clearly today. I wouldn't have been able to become such a mentally strong character that I am today. And because I'm working through these things every day, and I'm making the art of transforming my life a daily habit, the only way is up, and I'm only going to become mentally stronger. But I certainly have learnt a valuable lesson from this, which is to work through any sort of fear that I've made up in my head. And also the fact that if there is any fear, it's come from the head. It's all just mental. When we come out the womb, when we come out the womb, we're fearless people that have creativity inside us, that have so much enthusiasm towards learning what the world has to offer and experiencing life, loving life. As children, that's what we do. But parents try to get us to act in a certain way, and eventually through the school system and potentially through university and work, that fearlessness goes away, and you build up fears by being told, no, don't act this way, don't act that way, you can't do this and you can't do that, and going through things that you don't actually want to do, and things that you don't actually really love. After all of that, for years on end, that fearlessness is clouded and covered with fears, a whole load of them. Wow, this is actually got really deep all of a sudden, and I haven't even spoken about everything else that I wanted to say. There's one thing left that I wanted to speak about yesterday, that I therefore thought maybe a mentally stronger person after those events, which is, as I mentioned earlier, seeing a group of teenage boys, one of which I met before in a skate park, and that has spoken to me before about a childish topic, about losing his virginity at such a young age. I thought about why losing your virginity and having sex could be something that's so praised, and I think it could be due to the fact that having sex for pleasure, even though pleasure is a byproduct and not the main product, which is having children, you're making it seem like you can actually fulfill an ancestral need, which would therefore be praised, because our ancestral purpose in life was to evolve and therefore reproduce. So the fact that people brag about having sex with this girl and that girl, or which girl sucked whose dick, or whatever, or something like that, I think the reason why that could be a brag is because that's seen as you're able to fulfill a hardwired ancestral need, which is to evolve and to reproduce. And the fact that you're having sex for pleasure implies that you can do that. Maybe that's what it is. And I've never thought of it in that way before. But I personally think, after watching a human, what was it? Institute of Human Anatomy. There you go. After watching a Institute of Human Anatomy video about chlamydia. No, No, after realizing that the main purpose of sex is for children, and the fact that people nowadays actually try and have sex only for the byproduct, I thought, you know what? No, I'm not actually going to have sex a whole lot. I am a virgin, and my virginity is sacred. I'd rather not waste it on someone that I actually didn't like. And not only that, but I understand that sex is to have children, and I'm not interested in kids, especially at this point in time. So it doesn't make sense as to why I'd want to have it, especially often. Maybe for pleasure, maybe I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know what that's like. But maybe every now and then, especially if it's a girl I like. If that's every now and then, I don't mind. But it has to be safe, it has to be protected, and I have to like the girl. The girl has to like me. I have to see, not necessarily a future with the girl, but many green flags and not many submissive characteristics, but she certainly can't be trying to take my role and acting like a man, that's for sure. But as I become more masculine, it makes sense that the girls who are attracted to me are feminine. Because that's how it's meant to be. Men aren't meant to be feminine, and women aren't meant to be masculine. That's not how it's meant to be. That's just not our roles. If that were the case, men would have, as far as I'm concerned, if that were the case, men would have vaginas and women would have dicks. And women would brag about slinging their dicks here, there, and everywhere. As far as I'm concerned, if the roles were meant to be that way, they would be that way. But they aren't. So I'm not going to settle for a masculine lady. I'm not going to settle for a lady that's tried to take my role as a man and try to prove that she's more of a man than I am. Absolutely not. And I'll tell you what, before I actually have sex with a girl, I'll do more research on STDs and all that sort of stuff. At this point in time, I'm experiencing short-term discomfort saying this, but at this point in time, I'll tell you the truth. I don't even know how to put a condom on. But I'll tell you what though, it'll eventually happen. It will eventually happen. But I'm not going to rush into having sex with a girl that I don't want to have sex with at all. Simply to brag that I can fulfill an ancestral hardwired need, to imply that I can fulfill an ancestral hardwired need of reproducing and therefore evolving. I don't need to prove that to anyone. So I'm not going to rush into a relationship. Especially because a girl could try and control what I'm doing, and actually, without even realizing, or potentially actually realizing it, she's trying to take away what I'm doing so that she has more attention. I'm not doing that for her. If it's a girl that I like a lot and she respects my space and doesn't try and give me ultimatums about wanting her to be my girlfriend or wanting to have sex with me, for example, saying, oh, you have to have sex with me or otherwise blah blah blah. No, especially with the girlfriend thing. No, I'm not going to settle down for a girl that's like that. But this has got again, this has got extremely off topic. But yeah, so I was saying I saw this group of what the hell? Talking about not knowing how to put a condom on, and then immediately, well, I saw a group of teenage boys and I was walking through things. Right. Right, anyway, yeah. So I am gonna make that abrupt change. Shamelessly, I am gonna do it. I care, but not enough to not do it. I saw a group of teenage boys, one of which actually spoke to me about losing their virginity at an early age with two girls at the skate park. This is that same guy, by the way. that I was just talking about a few minutes ago. And I impulsively thought, man, the fuck up. Really? Really? Okay, just listen to this BS. I impulsively thought that they could want to stop me due to the dreams in the event, but I still walked because I decided I wanted to go that way, so that meant I had to go that way. And I did. And I eventually turned left out of the very large walkway that they were playing footy on. Man, the fuck up. Seriously, like, it's okay. They're just little kids. Like, they're not gunmen, they're not shank masters. Like, seriously. Just so what? I saw one guy, and so what? I saw many people that potentially could have been him. So fucking what? Man up. Man up. Man up. What is this? What is this? I'll tell you what this is. Years worth of fear finally releasing, finally coming out of me. Months, maybe less than half a year's worth of fear that I built up in my head, finally coming out. Man the fuck up. That's what I say. Man the fuck up. They're just little kids. Like, big deal. But anyway, as I wrote on the pad, I'd actually also say I'm a much stronger person after all of this, as I'm not avoiding places or people, because I thought I may be questioned about me calling Joseph fat. So fucking what, man? So what? Get over it. Like, big deal. Alright, I've spoken about that. What the hell? I could understand this month's worth of fear coming out and finally being released. But I allowed myself to feel so much fear. I know my mum could feel a lot of fear due to living with her for a long time. And dad as well. Yeah, they absolutely aren't to blame for this, but I could understand that maybe as a kid, I learned to have those sorts of fearful characteristics as a child. You don't know any better. But yeah, I've manned up after this. Like, get the fuck over it. They're just kids. They are just kids. They're not gunmen. They're not shank masters. That big deal. They're not even dangers. Yesterday, I perceived even Taylor, who I didn't have a problem with at all, I perceived him as a danger. Potentially because he could bring up me calling him Joseph fat a while ago. But that was so long ago. Like, seriously, man. Like, man up. Man the fuck up. Big deal. Big deal. I said to one of his so-called friends that he's fat. Big deal. Big deal. I've moved on, and I'm not going to go and talk about someone behind their back again. Like, on my part, that's something that next time I'm not going to do. I'd rather talk to someone directly. Especially if I'm going to say something like that, I wouldn't want to be spoken about behind my back. So it doesn't make sense for me to go and do that. I did it on impulse, but even still, that's unacceptable behaviour. Okay, yeah, I think that's all I need to say about that situation. Like, man up, seriously. What a big fucking deal. There are many other things that I want to talk about as well. Okay, yes, I found them. So, although I said I didn't want to watch YouTube during monk mode, my way of watching YouTube has actually changed. So yesterday, instead of switching to other videos after a few minutes, I actually made myself watch entire videos. For example, one of the last videos I watched last night was a Nicholas Crystal video about how to in my head I was just thinking I've manned up after speaking about that situation a few minutes ago. But anyway, back to Nicholas. The last video I watched last night was from my memory anyway, was a video about how to go through a dopamine detox, which is about a 24-minute video, and I watched that in its entirety. There was also a video from someone called Grant, which is advice for a 20-year-old, and I also watched that in its entirety. I think that was a 18-minute video maybe. But from now on, I'm taking that as slowly but surely coming off. Like when you're learning how to walk as a baby, you may want to hold your mum's hand or your dad's hand. I'd say that's what I'm doing, but with how I've unhealthily consumed YouTube for all of these years. I'm holding the hand, and then eventually I'll let go and be able to walk and run. So if anything, I'm holding the hands of improvement and coming off the addiction. That's what I'm doing. And then eventually I'll be able to let go of all of the I'll be able to let go from that unhealthy habit of mindlessly consuming YouTube. I've had a snapshot in my mind after this, which has come from a place where I was just about to start this plank session that you saw, and I saw Dad was in the front room. He was playing his YouTube on the TV, but he was also on the iPad as well. Man, it seems like nowadays overstimulation is such a normal thing that it actually could be seen as strange if you even have only one device up and you're switching video to video every few minutes. I don't know how he does it. I have no idea, but I certainly know for sure that that's an aspect of life in which I am surpassing him. I know that that's really unhealthy, and I'm now actually starting to understand how much switching from video to video actually overstimulates the mind. Which leads me to one of the other main points that I wanted to speak about when it comes to how the effects I've experienced due to watching YouTube in this way, in which I watch the entire video. First of all, it's made me think twice about watching videos, and I've changed my mindset on scrolling. It's like window shopping for products I'll never buy, and I'm wasting my time wasting time. I'm wasting my time by mindlessly consuming YouTube, and I'm wasting my time by looking and scrolling for a video to watch. So I'd say I certainly think twice about watching YouTube videos, and I can much more easily come off because of that new mindset change I had yesterday. And also, again, I've been watching. Oh yes, okay, I now remember. Yes, because I've been watching YouTube videos in their entirety instead of once every few minutes. I'd say that my attention span's also improved because I was able to recall much more about the videos I watched in the description of yesterday's log. Like, for example, I even remembered that I actually watched the dopamine detox video, and I watched a video from the Institute of Human Anatomy about chlamydia and the fact that chlamydia can be asymptomatic. There's no way I'm going in raw. With that in mind, and if that's actually the truth, like it could be asymptomatic, like in the vagina or rectum. Oh yeah, there's no way I'm going in raw. I would have stayed strapped, and at least increase the chances that I won't catch a sexually transmitted disease. But yeah, again, I'm going off topic. I noticed that my mind, it took much longer to overstimulate my mind because I wasn't switching from video to video and try to digest so many messages like how I used to, from video to video, video to video, video to video. Nah, I'm not doing that anymore. And even watching videos in their entirety not only makes me think twice, but again, as I just said, it takes much longer to overstimulate my mind. So I think that is what's going to really help me from not watching YouTube at all. Okay. I've also noticed that my reading ability's improved. When I say my reading ability's improved, I mean my ability to retain information after reading's improved. So a few days ago from a previous plank journey log, I remember saying that when I was looking at the deep workbook, it was just like whoa. It was doing the visual equivalent of going in one ear and out the other. It was doing the visual equivalent of that. It was just like nothing was going in at all mentally. And I thought, oh my gosh, my attention span is screwed. But I'll tell you what, it's improving. Yeah. So I remembered that message of card memorization from the Deep Workbook on the last page that's related to embracing boredom. I was able to retain that information and recall it a few minutes after actually picking up the book. So it's improving, man. My ability to retain what I've read is actually improving. There's so that's that talked about. See, because I've already spoken about ideas that I want to focus, ideas I want to improve my focus on, which is the card memorization tactics and the productive meditation to start and end the day with. When it comes to doing what I set myself outside of this journey. So there's another thing that I want to speak about quickly, and it's about getting up in the morning. So I've been, for a few days or however long, I've been wanting to get up and stay up in the morning, and my rule that I came up with today has actually worked, and that rule is once you get up, you can't go back into bed. However, you can make the bed and you can pick up things from the bed, like the pen that you use to write in your pad, write with in your pad from an evening routine. I don't think that actually made sense. The pen you use to write with during your evening routine. There you go. And this morning I got up at 9:30 a.m. I think the time has changed though. I think it's 1 hour later than usual. And I remember being on the screens last night until 9:30 to before 10, watching the final dopamine detox video from Nicholas Crystal, which is a major improvement. The fact that I can actually recall what I was watching on YouTube, that's an improvement. There's also another thing when it comes to fear, and I think what I experienced was my senses for fear have been extremely overreactive, and I'll explain. So this morning, when I woke up, even though there was no news about war or any of my family members, like my parents, for example, complaining, even though I didn't hear any of those things and it was just silent, I said back to sender, which is my way of automatically deflecting negative influences, but there was nothing there. Maybe it was because automatically that's what I expect. I expect some form of news about the Ukraine war, or some my parents complaining, for example. I'm expecting, maybe it's that I'm automatically expecting something, but that's just not the case. That's just not going to happen. And I think in order to work through this, I'll write in my pad during the evening. I'll talk about it, and I'm also going to learn from therapy in a nutshell about this sort of thing. And I think what it could have been as to why I did this, even though there was nothing triggering it, is because of yesterday's walk, in which I potentially saw Joseph, Kira, saw Taylor for sure, saw all of these people that I used to speak to in the skate park and thought could potentially kill me over the dreams and that. I think that's what it could have been as well, and I was just recovering through that, maybe without realizing it, maybe, but I don't know. I'm thinking, I've got 2 more things to talk about and then I'll end the video. I'm thinking of bringing my phone to the gym with earphones so I could play music, so that I'm fully immersed in the gym session. I've done this in the past, but I haven't done it recently. I think I'd much rather do that, but I'd much rather do that than have my amygdala, I think it's called, that therapy in a nutshell was talked about, be triggered and be exploited by the news. I think that's what the news have to do. They have to trigger your fear sensors in order for you to carry on watching. And I think that genuinely could be why they don't actually speak about how to improve your mental health or how to stay mentally healthy during these sorts of times. Because if they did, then you would be feeling, if they did and people listened, then they wouldn't be feeling as much fear, provided that there are actually therapists that actually cared about people's mental health out there. I don't think they want to put therapists on the news platforms, because that would mean that potentially that people wouldn't be feeling as fearful, which would mean less clicks. So yeah, I'm thinking of taking my earphones with me along with my phone to put in some music so I can stay fully immersed in pushing past my mental limits when I go to the gym, instead of consuming images from the TVs that are there in the gym about the Ukraine war, seeing like jeeps and that, and seeing locations like I don't know how to say it, but it's spelled Lviv and it's in Ukraine. I'd much rather just be fully immersed in what I do instead of fearing things that I can't control. You know what? I actually felt fear. I felt fear about that Ukraine war, but I also felt fear about speaking about it. But now, I didn't experience any fear when talking about it at all. I think it's because I've built up that muscle to a point where my mental strength is so strong, I'm not actually starting to become fearless. Imagine that. But yeah, those are my thoughts on going to the gym, and I may actually do that now, seeing as I plan to go to the gym later today after having some food. And one last thing, I also saw a short based on what Kobe Bryant said in an open sort of interview where there are many people there, like an arena sort of environment where there are a whole load of people that can turn up, and that did turn up. And he was talking about what it takes to be great. And the main idea that I took from it was that you could do 2 hours, like maybe 4 times a day. You could have 2 hours of your craft 4 times a day, 2 hour periods 4 times a day that are split up throughout the day, in which you focus on your craft and you just keep on going at it over and over and over again. Maybe that's something that I could do and that I could implement into my life. But I do it for different things. I wouldn't do that for just training, because there's no way in hell I'm training 8 hours a day. I'm not working out 8 hours a day. I'm not doing that. But I can certainly implement that with other things that I set myself to do, like the business side sort of things, doing fun things that pay me in that. So I may actually do that, and I want to wake up much earlier anyway, at around any time from 4 to 6 in the morning, which I've said. So I may actually get on that. But anyway, that's it. That's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed and learned something valuable. Take care of yourselves and don't suppress yourselves. Speak about what's on your mind freely, and trust me, you'll be free from emotional incarceration, and you'll be able to transform your life if you use an outlet just like how I am, in which I can freely speak my mind. Please take care of yourselves and allow yourselves to speak your mind freely every single day. Just for the sake of loving yourself, just for the sake of having some self-respect, please do this for yourself. Please allow yourself to talk freely on whatever you're working on every single day through an outlet like mine, especially through an outlet like YouTube, for example, because that means that you're not only helping yourself, but other people can listen to you and they can learn something from you as well, and maybe further spread the self-improvement movement forward. But anyway, that is it. Please take care of yourselves. Allow yourselves to speak your mind freely instead of suppressing yourselves, for the sake of self-love and self-respect. But that's it. I'll catch you in the next one. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves out there, man. That's it. Peace.